The incident unfolded at KnockX Pro Wrestling Academy in Sun Valley, Los Angeles, during a live-streamed event on the Kick platform. What was meant to be a choreographed spot turned catastrophic when Raja Jackson, a 25-year-old MMA fighter with a 1-to-1 professional record, stormed the ring during Smith's match. Video footage shows Jackson hoisting Smith, a U.S. Army veteran who wrestles as Psycho Stu, above his head, slamming him to the mat and unleashing over 20 punches to his face as he lay seemingly unconscious. The assault, described by wrestling journalist Dave Meltzer as the worst thing I've ever seen in a ring, left Smith with severe injuries, broken facial bones, lost teeth, and trauma to his jaws and lip. Other wrestlers, including Douglas Mallow, intervened, with Mallow later stating on the Scaling Up podcast that he believed Jackson would have killed Smith had he not been stopped. The brutality, witnessed by a stunned crowd including children, was live-streamed, amplifying its impact as clips spread across social media. The lead-up to the attack adds complexity. Earlier that evening, Smith, acting in character, struck Jackson on the head with a beverage can, possibly gimmicked for safety, believing Jackson was part of the wrestling show. After realizing Jackson wasn't a worker, Smith apologized profusely, and the two shook hands, agreeing Jackson would join the match for a scripted receipt, a wrestling term for a retaliatory strike. Another wrestler, identified as Andre Joel Hudson, encouraged Jackson to deliver this payback, a decision that proved disastrous. Quentin Jackson, watching from the announcer's table, later claimed he thought it was part of the show, calling it a work that went wrong. He emphasized that Raja, who had suffered a concussion days earlier, had no business being involved, stating, "I don't condone my son's actions at all." On X, Rampage's defense of his son, citing personal struggles since his mother's passing, has drawn mixed reactions, with some empathizing with his fatherly instinct and others condemning his attempt to contextualize the violence. The Los Angeles Police Department responded to the scene at 9 p.m. after a report of attempted murder, but Jackson had already fled. A felony battery report was filed, and the investigation has since escalated, with California state authorities taking over due to the case's severity and public attention. Wrestler Doug Mallow, speaking on the Masters of Wrestling podcast, revealed a detective friend indicated the LAPD's slow pace prompted the state's involvement given the overwhelming evidence, live stream footage, witness accounts, and videos. No arrests have been made as of September 4th, 2025, but insiders like former UFC fighter Josh Thompson suggest prosecutors are building a case to ensure Jackson faces significant jail time, potentially for felony charges. Social media is ablaze with calls for justice, with users on X demanding murder charges or a lifetime ban from combat sports, citing the attack's ferocity in front of children and Smith's critical condition. Smith's recovery has become a focal point. His brother Andrew posted on Facebook that Smith was stable but in critical care, later noting he was conscious with some recollection of the event. A GoFundMe launched by Smith's wife, Contessa Patterson, has raised over $200,000 to cover medical bills and lost income, highlighting Smith's role as a veteran who used wrestling to manage PTSD. The wrestling community has rallied, with WWE star Rusev boosting the fundraiser and others like Filthy Tom Lawler and Royce Isaacs condemning the incident. Lawler criticized Knox talent AJ Mena for encouraging Jackson's receipt, while Isaacs stressed that safety must trump performance. Andrew's updates also clarified no official GoFundMe existed initially, countering misinformation from the fake campaigns. The incident has exposed deeper issues in independent wrestling. KnockX Pro Wrestling, affiliated with WWE's ID program, condemned Jackson's actions as reprehensible, stating the spot was meant to be scripted. They've since severed WWE ties, removing branding from their materials. Critics like Malo and Ian Morgan accused KnockX management of discouraging cooperation with police, alleging a cover-up supported by screenshots of messages from management. Mark Henry, a WWE Hall of Famer, expressed mixed sentiments, initially supporting Raja but later condemning the violence while blaming Knox veterans for failing to guide Jackson. He compared the incident to his own early career when the Hart family mentored him and criticized the lack of oversight, noting some involved had been drinking. Henry also addressed racial accusations on Austin's 1300 The Zone, denying bias and calling himself a watcher who helps others, though his stance drew skepticism online. The MMA community has also reacted. Shannon Briggs, a former boxing champion, called for athletes to be cautious in public settings, even proposing a boxing match with Rampage, promising a knockout. Javier Mendez, coach to UFC's Islam Makhachev, suggested Smith's can incident provoked Jackson, sparking debate. Some agree Smith's actions actions escalated tensions, but most argue Jackson's response, pummeling an unconscious opponent, was indefensible. Rob Van Dam, another WWE legend, initially backed Jackson, but later clarified his disapproval, claiming both were set up by poor planning. The controversy has led to professional consequences for Jackson, with a Southern California venue banning him from a Danger Pro Wrestling event, suspecting his name was used for publicity. The legal outlook is grim for Jackson. Striking an unconscious opponent, especially with a recent concussion, complicates the case. California law prioritizes harm caused, and the live-streamed evidence makes intent clear, with one ex-user quoting Jackson saying, "It's always been my dream to fuck up a pro wrestler," suggesting premeditation. Small promotions like KnockX often lack the safety protocols of larger organizations like WWE, where going off script results in fines or suspensions. Rampage's mention of his son's concussion raises questions about KnockX's responsibility in allowing Jackson to participate, potentially sharing liability. The state's involvement signals a push for serious charges, possibly felony battery or assault, given the public outcry and evidence. The incident has broader implications. It's reignited discussions about safety in wrestling, where performers rely on trust to protect each other. Jackson's actions broke that trust, drawing parallels to rare but infamous incidents, like Brock Lesnar's controlled 15 German suplexes on John Cena. The wrestling and MMA worlds are watching closely, with mainstream media amplifying the story due to Rampage's fame and KnockX's WWE ties. Fans are divided. Some see Raja as a victim of poor guidance, others as a reckless aggressor. Rampage is pleased to stop racial threats against his family add a personal layer, but his call for justice to take its course hasn't quelled demands for accountability. As Smith recovers, the focus remains on his health and the legal outcome. The wrestling community's support, from donations to public statements, underscores the incident's impact. Raja Jackson's fate hangs in the balance, with state prosecutors signaling a tough road ahead. What's your take on this? Should Raja face jail time, or was he set up by a chaotic environment? Does Knox share the blame? Share your thoughts, wish Psycho Stu a speedy recovery, and subscribe for updates on this unfolding saga.